Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So yesterday, many summoners, myself included, received 3-star Anti-Venom in mail, and I have since ranked him up, took him to Sig 99, and now it's time we take a bit of a closer look to try and put our finger on where this champion exactly is going to lie. The first fight that I'm going to do as a comparison is going to be their damage output in longer fights, pretty much under ideal circumstances. Opponent, is not debuff immune, doesn't shrug anything off, doesn't have any specific defensive abilities to be countered, and basically have infinite health pool for all intents and purposes. We're going to be going up to 200 hits, which I think is reasonable, and then we're going to be taking a look at, how it works out for Anti-Venom, how much damage he can do, and we're going to be comparing that with a moderate damage dealing champion like Red Hulk in pretty much perfect conditions in longer fight. And then we're going to be taking a look at several different things, and at the end of it I'm just going to bring him in random quest in Act 4 to talk about kind of like general feel of it and stuff like that. So I built up to my level 3 immediately, and with that I activate the ability to gain 8 debuffs on the opponent, which basically the plan is level 3, level 1, and then level 2, 8 big furies. Now I can start hitting quite hard, and that definitely is quite noticeable. I'm taking a bit of block damage there, but I also want to check how well that regen works on his Sig ability as a max Sig champion, and whether he's a squishy champion or not, because in the deep dive it actually seemed that he's quite squishy. But we're going to get to that bit later on. And now basically I'm doing the same rotation again. 102 hits, we can see that Winter Soldier has gone down by like 12%, I think, 13%. But, we're still putting in work. There are no synergies, nothing. This is just purely Anti-Venom on his base kit abilities. You can see that I still have those 8 Furies for now active. I'm going to go in for my level 1 in a second, because I do want to refresh the level 3 passive. I want to get the accelerated mutation. Now I want to get to my level 2 again and gain more Furies and, do all that cool stuff that you do with Anti-Venom. 129 hits, and it actually is looking quite good. How good exactly? I'm going to show you guys a comparison a bit later on. So here again, I have 7 big Furies hitting decent amounts of damage for a 3-star champion for sure. Going for a level 1, why not refresh that level 3 passive and gain another one from level 1. And we're just chirping away here. We're just chirping away. At this point, we already have done like 25% of his total health is damage with 160 hits. But we're still not done yet, so I'm gonna go for another level 1. I should not have dropped it yet. I should have waited till that level 1 accelerated mutation expires, but I actually do make it in time to get those passive from level 3 refreshed again. So 175. Now, unfortunately, I just run out of Furies here, but I'm building to my level 2 to gain some Furies here instead, because I still have the level 3 passive active on me. So I'm going to be going for that. 8 Furies are back in place. Unfortunately, no crit on level 2. And we still have 8 hits remaining till we make it 200 hits. I want to make it exactly 200 hits. And we can see that we have dealt 35% damage to Winter Soldier. So 35% damage in 200 hits for a 3-star. That's actually good. And again, for comparison, we're going to check how good it is. And I'm going to bring in Red Hulk. And again, I'm going to be doing exactly the same thing, but Red Hulk's gameplay obviously is nothing new, nothing exciting or complicated. Just basically spamming my level 1s. And with Red Hulk, we are taking him down from 65% to... Here we go. And there we go, 52. So with Red Hulk, we did 13% damage. With Anti-Venom, we did 35% damage. So it's like 2.7 times more. So in long fights, where obviously everything's working fine, Anti-Venom actually has a very, very, very solid damage output. Can't deny that. I'm sure that's going to translate to some impressive thumbnails on some YouTubers' videos with OMG and Beyond God tier damage and stuff like that. We're going to see Anti-Venom dish out some serious damage in longer fights, for sure. But with that, we also need to cover a few different bases. And the next thing that we're going to be taking a look at here is going to be how squishy he is. So here I took 5 different science champions with various block proficiencies and abilities. And what the goal is to see how much damage I'm taking on medium parries. And this is Act 5.3, I think, 536. And with Anti-Venom, I'm taking 219 damage on parry. And obviously, you do get to regenerate quite a bit of it. But it's also quite important to see the actual damage there. 219 parry, plus you have the regen abilities. Now I'm going to be bringing in Piggy. Let's see how Piggy does. And again, I just want to make sure that I'm parrying the medium hit. And 213. So Piggy is slightly sturdier. 213 is how well Piggy blocks. And then we're going to move on to Red Hulk. Red Hulk initially, that 155 was from light. Come on, medium, 241. So Red Hulk is taking, well, more block damage than Anti-Venom is, but obviously Red Hulk gains physical resistance as he gains charges. So let's say with 9 heat charges, Red Hulk is obviously going to be taking 153, significantly less. But on its base, Red Hulk has worse block proficiency, obviously. And then we're going to bring in this guy, and he's going to take 127, which is very little. And then obviously Captain has the perfect parries. At this point, I thought it's worthwhile taking a look at the actual stats. The actual stats of Anti-Venom on Aunt May and see what is happening there. So let's do that real quickly, because that unfortunately led me to discover something quite annoying about the champion. And so we're going to filter out science champions, and HP wise, which is currently filtered out by, I believe, HP wise, he's in the middle. Pretty much all of the stats Anti-Venom has are somewhere around the middle. His crit rate, his crit damage, his armor, his block proficiency, all are average, which is perfectly fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You can see block proficiency, where is Anti-Venom, 15 out of 33. Again, pretty much dead on in the middle. The one outlier, though, unfortunately, is the base attack. Anti-Venom has the second lowest base attack in science class. And that's not good. That's not good for a very simple reason. And that is, he only has one way to increase his damage, and that is with his Fury buff, effectively. Now, granted, he gets a little bit of help from his Symbiote debuff that reduces opponent's physical resistance, that does increase his damage. But his own damage multipliers only come while level 2 Fury, which are forcefully requiring you to remove all your utility. Which is one of the things that I dislike about the champion the most, is that at the point when you go for damage, you lose your utility. And in trickier fights, for instance, where being able to counter Unstoppable is a very vital piece of utility, you risk messing up the entire fight if you want to activate your level 2, because that would effectively remove all your deaccelerates. And then with that, you need to make a decision whether you want to have a harder fight or you want to have solid utility. Don't like that. But that might be a decision that you kind of have to make, given that Anti-Venom does in fact have the lowest, or the second lowest base attack in science class. Everything else in his stats is fine. Base attack, however, I don't like. Okay, so let's move away from Aunt May and let's go back to the next recording that I made. And this is in like Act 4.45 quest, I think, We're just going to be going up against a random Iron Fist here. And I'm going to be checking out how many hits it really takes in a shorter kind of realistic fight. This is about the power comparison that you kind of frequently would be able to see. And obviously Anti-Venom does have a shorter rotation where you drop a level 1, build up to level 2, drop that, and you know, get those Furies up. Again, unfortunately, having to remove all the debuffs. Here we can see that the level 1, level 2, 35 hits is nearly dead, and we're going to go in for 36 hits. So 36 hits to get down this Iron Fist with, you know, very basic type of rotation. And then we're going to be comparing how he rates against the rest of these champions. How does Red Hulk, who objectively in longer fights has pretty much 3 times less damage than Anti-Venom has. Build up to level 1 and the fight's pretty much over. So instead of 37 hits, we're at 21. Now we're going to bring in Spider-Ham. And we're going to see what happens here. Instead of 37 hits, we have 21 again. Gonna bring in Yellow Jacket, who is actually kind of known for his noodle damage output. Because yeah, we can all agree that, you know, Yellow Jacket's damage is the biggest problem with the champion. Otherwise, he would actually be, you know, very solid champion in my opinion. And unfortunately, we're going to be able to see here that even Yellow Jacket does the fight significantly quicker than Anti-Venom does. In kind of like short to medium level fights. 27 instead of 37. Basically, we need 2 level 1s instead of level 1, level 2. And that kind of does make me somewhat worried. How willing people will be to purposely make their day-to-day fights longer in order to access the utility that Anti-Venom has, considering that, you know, he does have a fair amount of utility, but it's not unheard of, it's not unique. It's not like he's the only champion that can do something. So here we're gonna skip past this Hulk fight, which is kind of unfair damage comparison or damage rating, because he has 80% physical resistance, but we can take the rest of the fights in consideration. I'm going up against Science Symbiote, and I'm just doing the level 1, level 2 rotations basically here. And this one is 60 hits. And then I'm going up against Captain America. Again, level 1, level 2 rotation. And this one is 43 hits against Magic, you know, little class advantage, everything else. This one is 43 hits as well. And against Ronan, we have 43, fairly consistent 43 hits. And this last one would be 60 hits. But now let's take a look at how Nick Fury does, even in his first life, you know, without life model decoy destroyed. So the lowest Anti-Venom did was like 43 hits, the highest was like 60 hits. So he did these fights in 40 to 60 hits. Here you can see that Nick Fury does it in, even in the first life, again, in 32. And then in the next fight, I think I'm going to destroy the life model decoy on purpose. Accidentally used level 3, but that was like extra 10 hits, so that's going to be 28. And here we're going to use Nick Fury to get this fight down in 13 hits. So virtually identical fights in the health pool. Nick Fury without life model decoy, and the start finishes in 13 hits. And the guy needed up to 60, 40 to 60. So there is the concern of the damage in, you know, short to medium level fights. We will only be able to answer that for sure once we actually get to see play, you know, 5-star rank 5, 6-star rank 2, 6-star rank 3 champions. I don't know whether his abysmally low base attack and slow start of the fight will be the deal breaker for the champion. Overall, I do like the champion. I like the varied piece of utility. I like his core mechanic, how you switch with the second medium in between which debuff you want to place on opponent. It's fairly easy to use, easy to get used to. And the rotations aren't like too complex. You kind of understand exactly everything that's happening. But genuinely, the biggest concern is whether it's just a bit too slow. Because in long fights, we saw that he can put in serious amount of work. A lot of damage against that Winter Soldier in like, 200 hit fight. But we don't do 200 hit fights often. We really don't. And then past that point, I'm not worried about him being too squishy. He's bang on average, and if you combine that with, his potential to heal back majority of the chip damage, he's actually a quite sturdy, sustainable character. I like that. But the starting damage and the ramp up is the biggest problem. Because if the champion's too slow, nobody plays him. So we'll see what happens with him. Those are like the two critical points, I think. Number one is his base attack and his starting damage until you get like, solid set amount of Furies active. And number two is the fact that you do give away most, if not all, your utility for those Furies, which I do not like. But we can see once those Furies are active, Maestro just melted away. And let's rewind from that point of that level 2. So he's at 75%. 75%. Going for level 2. We have a massive crit. Like 43% there. And then afterwards, one combo, another 10+% gone, another combo, another 10% of his health gone. Gonna go in for a level 1. That's some solid amount of damage there. Question is if it's a bit too little too late or not. Again, that is something that I can't deduce playing around with 3-star champion. That is something we definitely do need to wait for more information and, see how he actually feels if you try to use him for monthly event quest, Act 7, Act 6, or Alliance quest, Alliance War, things like that. What actually kind of matters in the game. I must say that he's kind of growing on me, though. I'm quite sure that I prefer him over Null in terms of his abilities. At the very least at this point. Now, obviously, that might change at some point. But I do think having the double immunities, having access to different debuffs, having access to stagger on heavy attacks and all that other stuff, I like him. I do like him. I do hope that he actually turns out quite good. Let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you guys soon. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about